All right, world. Hello, and welcome to another Chuck Levin's Live. Man, we almost said that like in unison. That was kind of cool. We should have like a voice of angels. The year's 1969, and Woodstock was upon us in the month of August, in the summer of love. And right, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I don't know. Was that the summer of love? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it is our 65th anniversary, and we are going through the decades. June is the 60s month, and to finish it off, we figured there is no better way than to explore the sounds of Woodstock, the most iconic music festival of all time. Come at me if you think that's not the truth, because you're probably wrong, but I'll take your considerations. And we have Zach and Juliet to dive into some of the most iconic sounds from the most iconic artists of the 60s on the Woodstock stage. Let's get into it, guys. Take us there. Take us back. Take us back to Woodstock, New York in the 60s. What's up?
Do you want to tell us about some of the assortment we grabbed today?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just stay here. So we have an assortment of stuff that is not exactly what artists played on stage, but is like the right energy and kind of like the right way to access all of those sounds here now. Okay.
I think like the 60s were such an interesting time for effects in general.
It was the start, really.
Yeah, it was the cusp of it, you know,
Yeah.
modulate, like all the stuff that we kind of take for granted, your tube screamers, your blues drivers, like that, none of that stuff was around at the time, you know. You hit the 70s and that's when the market really started taking off. And everybody was making their own cool little thing. But back in the day, you had these little gray enclosures where it's like, it could be handwritten, you know, what it is, a Foxy box,
and
a fuzz
each
face.
one was kind of its own deal too, right?
It's an interesting time for pedals because there wasn't like a consistency to it.
Yeah.
You know, people were still trying out different circuits and diodes, seeing what works. I mean, we have the silicone fuzz that came out of the 60s. And we think about fuzz now, and there's so many different chips that you can use for it. But back in the day, there's only one real sound for it. Same with, you know, your modulation. When you have like a univibe sound, photocells, like they had to use actual parts and actual electronics to make this stuff. It's not chips. It wasn't circuit boards. It was somebody sitting there and putting all this stuff into a
Real
box.
science fiction.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's it.
I would also argue that it was kind of like the first time that artists were like having an amp that they could turn up as like loud as they could, and that started to influence how everything sounded, right? Like I think we started to get like overdrive and like a saturated tube in like a way that we just hadn't yet, and that has like changed everything about almost every style.
Oh yeah, I mean we wouldn't have genres of music if things didn't get heavier and heavier. Like and that's kind of the cusp of it was these types of effects, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we have a great assortment just to showcase some of those sounds that you would get in that era. It is kind of limited because there are only so many effects, but there's no sense of creativity unless you're using something like this. So, you know, we have the speaker cranker. That's kind of our overdriven tone. That would be this guy right here by Earthquaker. What I like about it is there is different types of clipping modes. So depending on what sound you're going for of your amp breaking up, you can kind of finagle it into the right spot. We have a Dynacomp, which is right next to it. That is a very simple two-knob compressor. Now, compressors get pretty in-depth these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you can have everything from your
Empress.
Empress. The
all
Empress.
the good shit stuff.
The Empress one is awesome. If you are a tech studio guy, I would highly recommend looking into that one because there's
other
so
one?
much maneuverability. Like
Like
it has the
origin effects too.
Origin effects, the Cali 76,
Yeah, I mean,
the slide rig. Yeah, those
come
things are
on,
nasty.
great stuff.
But back in the day, you know, compression was compression. There's
Yeah.
two knobs. You know, there's your output and your overall sensitivity. You know, they hadn't really dialed in all those extra little accoutrements you can do in a studio yet. You know.
Wow.
So
French.
Oh yeah,
So
oui oui.
French.
Accoutrement.
Here, I think let's like. Sorry, so this mic is here. Let's like talk through what all of
Then we can do the building blocks.
these are. Yeah, and then
yeah.
we'll have you play a bit
Sure.
and explain as we go. So like, you know, like people have an example. Okay.
So, sound of Woodstock everybody had different equipment. You know, everybody was coming from different areas, be it Europe, be it America, and everybody had access to different types of sounds. So the reason that I grabbed this Eons fuzz, I love fuzz. And one of those little baby effects that was coming out of that time was the fuzz face. You had the Foxy box. Eventually it progressed into the Big Muff. But they're all very different sounds of fuzz. You know, germanium chips, silicone chips, LED chips. Why I grabbed the Eons is because this actually gives you all of those chips, and it gives you the maneuverability to either power soak them or really juice the heck out of them and really make them nice and spicy, or kind of starve them and make them really squirty and kind of farty almost. But you listen to Satisfaction, you know, that's a very kind of farty, like, overdrive sound, and you get that from starving those batteries. And it's because there was just no consistency of power.
No
we didn't have a one spot to plug into. You know, you just had batteries, and sometimes batteries
like they die.
Yeah,
they die on stage.
There isn't. I mean, back in the day when these things were brand new, no one could tell you like, oh yeah, this battery's gonna last you like 2 shows. Like no one could tell you that. But you know, they just had to make do with what they got. I mean, that eventually progressed into people purposefully starving batteries to get specific sounds out of that. We actually have cool things now that'll do that for you. The Vulture by JHS will actually starve power for fuzz pedals, which for any fuzz that you love, it's 100%
experiment with it.
Worth experimenting, because what you're doing is you're taking something that you know, a control, and you're either overcharging it or undercharging it. Like you may know the entire range of that gain pot, but once you start playing with the power source, that gain pot completely changes. It's worth playing with. And then that's another way that you can really dial into those older sounds, because you can be like, you know what, that fuzz is just not quite as full as my Big Muff. Let me starve this Big Muff and get that sound from it. And this thing does it all, in addition to giving you all the different clipping modes.
Yeah.
Next effect, Univibe MXR. Jimi Hendrix, one of the most famous players to utilize the Univibe. He actually brought one to Woodstock for it. One of the more famous songs that he's known for the Univibe is Machine Gun. But for Woodstock, he actually used the Univibe on the Star Spangled Banner. So that's where you get that sound. That's where you get that really deep throbbing, undulating, like when he's holding certain notes and you hear them just like kind of just doing their own thing in the background. It kind of adds to the chaos of that whole performance. And that's the Univibe. And then we also have a Belly Pock. That's a tape delay. Some people had like the EP3s on their amps, and that would simulate like a delay effect, be it slapback, be it everywhere from like quarter note delays and stuff like that. Just a very traditional, you know, warm sounding delay and repeat. But yeah, that's and then of course we have a Crybaby. Wah-wahs are like a very important foundation of what guitar pedals are. I think they're most people's entry effect, and it's fun. You get to put it on the floor, you get to kick it around a bit. It sounds awesome. We actually have the smaller iteration of it. One of the main complaints about wah-wahs is the size. It's a big footprint, but these are smaller. Oh man, but yeah, that's our assortment. I selected these because there's certain artists that I gravitate towards for these kinds of sounds, and I'd love to show some examples.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you wanna pick the first one to start off with, and then we'll go through
first, like artist or first?
Do you wanna
sound?
do Hendrix since we have the Strat?
No, I think like you do that.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do Hendrix. Yeah. All right. So, let's do a Univibe sound, kind of just to talk about it. Well, here's my clean sound. Level okay on that? Just really warm, nice little single coil sound, and you can go ahead and engage it. So it kind of adds a nice throb to it. Just constant movement.
Seasick.
That's right. And then, of course, with these Univibes, they actually have like 2 different settings. One of them is the Univibe, which is kind of like a low throb. You'll hear it more in like deeper frequencies, and then of course you have the vibrato. Oh, backwards. Yeah. So actually, we open with the vibrato. This is the
This is the univibe.
This is the univibe. So it's gonna sit in a slightly deeper frequency, and you'll hear more of a pull towards your bass frequencies.
Can I put some like overdrive
Yeah,
on?
let's hit it with a little bit of overdrive.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, it's fun. Like whenever you're using univibes and stuff, there's kind of like a forward quality to it that just kind of makes you want to play to the throb.
Yeah.
And even in the vibrato setting, you can get like very sweet sounds for like more of the like I don't know, modern like kind of indie music, because it just sounds sweet.
I also have a hot take on this. Okay.
What's up?
It was right like the maybe advent or the start of like modulation effects being on kind of like every song everywhere. And I think because at the time, like what was happening, right? All of us are at war. There's like social unrest. I think that these were a big part of like a challenge to what sound everyone had associated with almost like the past. And I think that people were like intentionally aiming to kind of like break some like sonic ground and to put some sounds that can't be like like trolled in a way. And I think that it's cool to kind of have this like younger age group start to like turn up an amp even until it sounds bad. And they start to have these things that are actually like accidents that they end up loving. And it's almost like they're kind of like sticking it to the man. And I love that.
That's right.
Love it.
It's like, the whole thing with the 60s was like a revolutionary period.
Yes.
So it is a revolution in a sense, to defy the way that things sound.
Yes.
And I think even going back to the univibe, like Hendrix used it for Machine Gun to kind of
Like make you feel unrest.
uneasy. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's like a frustration and a
heavy.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. These are, it's just a form of expression,
Yeah.
a lot of these effects. And the univibe in particular, because it has a deeper throb, it can really mess with other effects in
Yes.
a really pleasing way. Be it you have an overdriven amp, that low frequency is actually going to make it fizzle and break up a certain way when you're hitting in the front end. And the complete inverse, where if you have an overdrive before it, in our case, we have an overdrive right before it, that is going to push the univibe to break up in that lower frequency earlier. So it kind of has this like fizz to it. It's interesting. And that's the other cool thing about all these effects. It's like there is a traditional way to set it all up. But in the same,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, in the same mindset of going against
some
it,
fun. Yeah.
have some fun, make some cool sounds,
Well,
try some new stuff.
And actually, I think that like we can talk about, we almost set up these with the fuzz in the front, right?
Yeah,
I know that we like chose this because that's how like
traditionally you would
Hendrix
do
did
it.
it. Yeah. But if you have like the time and are interested, experiment with where all of the stuff is in your like chain, and like you'll get all of these happy like accidents and things that are kind of like a like challenge to what is expected, which is cool.
One of the quote unquote seagull sound that David Gilmour gets for Pink Floyd is actually a wah that is plugged in reverse. So you
That sounds like the 70s, Zach.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Kill it.
Yeah. Kill the stream.
No.
Very cool. But yeah, did you want to talk about one of these effects with a cool guitar?
Sure. Let's,
Well, Juliet's pulling that up. I think just throw up that sick picture of Woodstock just while we're at it. Let's take ourselves back. Let's go there.
look at that. So
Look
I
at that.
think it
That's
was
humongous.
like 600,000 people showed up.
God.
I
so
have
wild.
a super cool fun fact. My father-in-law was actually there.
Wow.
He was
Where?
a child, but he was at this event. He's from upstate.
There he is.
Oh my God, it's him! No, it's not. But it was just the like local thing, and you know, there's not much that like happens up there, so like people were excited about this festival, and it became like larger than that town has ever seen.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. All right, what do you got? What are you playing? What do we have?
Okay.
What sound are we going after here?
Oof, good, yeah. I don't know. Okay, so I have an Epiphone. These are the new, like, high-end ones, made here.
Yep.
They are incredible. I think that, like, Epiphone is oftentimes, which is a fair thing, it is, like, seen as kind of, like, a starter instruments. These things are not at all.
No, that is
They
made
play-
to spec
yeah,
of a
they play-
335. That is
they're
crazy.
just nice. Everything like feels good. It sounds great. It's
beautiful,
awesome.
too.
And so I like picked this one because it has P90s, which at this like event, people like the Who and people like Santana played an SG that had P90s in it. I just like picked this because, you know, I want something different. Wow, look, that one looks great. Okay, there we go. Look at PD. Look at Pete.
Cool. You know who else was playing an Epiphone at the time?
John Lennon.
John Lennon. Yeah.
John Lennon. Yes.
John Lennon.
Zach, your hair is looking very Carlos Santana.
Sick. That's
That
right.
is
We gotta play Soul Sacrifice at some
Yes.
point.
Yeah,
That is rad.
But
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That would have been sick. Very cool. Do you want to do? So
yeah, what do we
pickups,
want to do?
because there's such a variety of pickups, they all break up a little bit different. So because these are P90s, they're gonna break up a little bit different than your standard single coils for a Stratocaster, because those have a warmer sound. And we'll show you what these sound like with humbuckers a little later. But let's hear the breakup with P90s.
Do it. It's a, like, you know, like rock and roll thing.
Oh yeah. And what's really cool, that guitar being semi-hollow, it kind of has like a feedback quality to it that kind of thickens out the rest of the note.
Yeah,
That's right.
that is it.
That's right. You can hear
Sorry,
me just fine
everyone.
with that.
But it should also be said, we are like playing one of these new tone like masters, which is a solid state amp. Shh. But it sounds awesome.
It sounds
and
really
it does
good.
all of like the feedback stuff, and if you have like a pedal or even if you have like a boost that can kind of like push these amps.
No, it breaks up
They
really
sound
nice.
awesome.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard like, I mean, if you plug in like a tube screamer to like a jazz chorus or something, it's gonna have a very specific sound. But this is breaking up very close to what a traditional amp would break up to, and it's just
Yeah.
a cool representation of like where we're at. You know, that's a chip. That's not a set of tubes in there. You know, back in the day, not only did they have to have all these tube-based amps, but you had to carry all that stuff in there. Like this thing probably at max weighs 15 pounds.
Yeah.
That's the weight of.
Oh, really?
Like. Oh yeah, yeah. An amp this size would be like 30 pounds. To cut that in half, that's insane. And to still have the breakup, the sound, the tone. There's a lot of
Yeah.
modern conveniences with it, like being a DI out. So if you enter a silent state situation, you can't use your amp. You can just plug
Plenty
a
of
DI.
people have tried to do this and failed. It has
Yeah.
not gone well many times over.
No.
To make a solid state amp that feels like a tube amp,
And
Who
I
else but
think the
Fender?
thing that they did well was that they picked one sound at a time. It is not like there is like a knob that, right, I can pick between like a like twin and like a this and that. They did one at a time and just ensured that
It's
sounded
not a
good.
modeling amp. It's just a good amp.
Well, it
Like, it is, but it's not
it
like-
only does one model.
But not right. It's not a.
Yeah.
It's not like a multi.
Supposed to
Yeah.
be like a
It's not.
But
It's not
it
10 pounds of crap
sounds-
in a 5. It's 5 pounds of crap in a
Yeah.
5-pound bag.
It's-
It's proper. It's right.
It's the proportionate amount.
It's proportionate amount. Yes, that's right.
Do not exceed this line in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like another big part of any like music event for me is like a band that plays stuff that people can dance to. And at this event, we had people like Sly Stone. We had, like a bunch of other kind of like dance and funk artists. And I think the iconic funk sound is
The Crybaby.
wah and
Little bit of
comp. Wait here. So like, let's just see. This is just straight. As soon as we add this in, it's just gonna tighten everything. This one does a super iconic, but it does like one sound, which is where it squashes everything a lot. But I mean, it's the sound of every like funk band that you've ever heard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. So this is like a conservative setting for it. If we start slamming it even more, you just hear the dynamic range kind of squapping, and then all of the notes are just a little more consistent. But it also has like a woofier quality to it because it is compressing. It's taking the dynamic range of that sound and just kind of whoop, so it's a little even. So that's why it can sound like it's almost choked, but in the context of playing
Of
funk
a-
music,
And of a big ass band that has horns, that has bass, that has keys, that has everything, it is gonna like take your sound and put it into one space that will just like cut through. And that's
yeah,
awesome.
that's right. And that's ideally what you would use a compressor for. And then, did you want to do the wah?
Yeah.
Cool. And then the next
Okay.
effect for that
should
same
do the
funk
wah.
situation,
Yeah.
yeah, I gotcha, is Crybaby. We have a wah. Let's get the little secret switch. Okay. Very cool. And
Come on,
traditionally
it's
these
fun,
would be on
man.
the
That was
floor.
awesome. That was
yeah.
funky.
Traditionally they'd be on the floor so you can kind of
Yes.
control it, but we know what we're doing. We're professionals.
All right.
Very
Sweet.
cool.
Who is the next artist?
Do you want to do Santana? Do you want to do the SG?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. So up next, we're gonna talk about like Santana. I will say like this will be kind of a hybrid. So yep, I think you see in that he has an SG. This is a 60s SG, but it is not P90s. It is humbuggies.
These are humbuggies, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff. And what you're going to get with humbuckers, essentially humbuckers are just two stacked single coils, so there's no chance of feedback.
Now, I moved to permanently change the name to Humbuggies.
Humbuggies. So these are my...
Yeah, yeah. But also, I think the thing, like, it's honestly kind of a fitting error here because I think, like, Santana started playing, like, PRSs, right? And that
did.
is
Yep.
his iconic sound, and, like, that is that. So his iconic sound, maybe not at this event, but just, like, overall, is absolutely a, like, neck pickup with like the tone kind of like down, but still
Darker
in a
sound of it.
solo setting. Yeah, and so like I think,
And you can
know,
hear
like, this
that...
will be perfect.
Like, when you dime an amp, something that you'll get really, I mean, everything's at 10. So obviously things are going to be a little brighter, a little darker. But when you're diming an amp, it can get a little harsh, and that's why generally people will roll down the tone pot just so it's a little more pleasing to the ear and has like kind of a sweeter quality to it. An example of that being like if we have this one, and we have the speaker cranker being overdrive. So that's kind of a cutty sound, and then as I roll that tone back.
Tone.
I'm still getting the sustain, but I'm not getting that brittle high frequency. These guitars have a tone for a reason.
Here, play some Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah. We gotta do one with like a full band. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. SG, that was Oye Como Va. Got a little bit of the speaker cranker going for a little bit of grit. And then we actually have the Belly Pock Deluxe, which we haven't talked about yet. We should.
No, let's like
get
talk
into
about it.
Yeah.
Also, I have to like hear that thing with some fuzz on it.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys ready? Now that's the 60s, baby.
That's it.
Yeah, that's with the fuzz and the Belly Pock. And it sounds super heavy.
Let's do this and like talk about everything like that thing can do.
Yeah.
Because it does more than just a slapback, which is what we've had it for.
Yeah.
But like a tape echo, as he said, could get up to maybe not a whole like second at the time. but
Yeah,
maybe, like,
for
half a
digital,
second.
that's when you would get
Yeah.
like way longer times.
Yeah.
You're really just getting kind of like a quarter note repeat depending on the time that you set it.
Let's just hear it. Let's just hear it. It's so pretty. Here, can you go neck? Are you on neck?
Yeah, I'm on that.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Ready? Sweet.
Very cool. Let's get a slapback sound. Hear that? There's this one song that's I'm trying to remember the name of the group, but it's called Shakin' All Over, and Led Zeppelin actually covered it, but it's a very good use of the slapback.
Come on.
Oh yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
It does.
Very
And I think it should be said too, almost all of the like effects that you hear on albums of the 60s were all done on actual like tape. Like they had to like take out the tape and like adjust it, or they could like slow it down. They could put like two heads, adding heads, etc. Almost everything that is like iconic of that era was all done with this one box and just every option that was like inside of it.
There's
Cool.
a very cool effect by I'm blanking on the name right now. Strymon. They make the deco. And essentially what the deco is it's two tape decks that you can blend between the two.
It's the best.
So you can get a delay sound. You can get a modulation sound because it's essentially two tape decks that are slightly, very like milliseconds off. And that's why you get that warble and stuff. And then as you increase that millisecond, that's when you start getting delay. You get, well, it starts
You
with
can even get like
chorus,
and-
flanging. Yeah. Essentially modulation is that little sweet spot where there's
Stuff
two
isn't-
sounds that are going. And then as soon as you deviate from that, that's when you have a whole different sound, and that's delay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. It's good stuff. Very cool.
I'm just getting an education here.
Yeah.
I am a student now. Keep it going. This is
Oh, yeah.
wild.
I
Yeah, throw it
Yeah.
up.
What is all right?
Oh, the
Who
acoustic
is
guitar.
that? Everyone,
I'm forgetting his name. Blanking on his name.
Richie Havens.
Richie Havens.
Richie Havens. Now, okay, like the fun thing about this is that the like microphone that they use for all instruments, actually, all like singing, all like instruments and amps, right?
As far as we could find, there was only one model microphone.
Yes.
Stage at this time.
So on stage at this event, there was just one thing, one like model.
Yeah, there's like 40 of them, but they're all the same mic.
Yes,
Really?
but
Wow.
it is the kind of like first step towards an SM58, which is now everywhere too. And so I would love to go through, this little bad boy that you've seen on every stage
Oh, that
of
microphone.
your entire
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, that
Oh, that one.
This
Yeah.
thing that is impossible to hide from, but also like impossible to sound bad. It's just everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You know, it's funny. I always thought it was a myth, but there are actual photos of people hammering nails building the stage at Woodstock with these microphones.
I wouldn't doubt that in the
crazy.
least. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like they are, and you can hammer that mic and then give it to Jimi Hendrix and be like, "Here you go. You're gonna use this one." Like it'll work.
Yeah. Okay. That is a shot. Okay. Let's go. So
that's why
he on stage played a guild, but it's the same wood and shape as this like Martin right here. Okay.
What's the wood on that one?
This is a like D18.
Okay.
So it's spruce top and like
Mahogany.
Yep.
Yeah, because the
Mahogany sides and back.
28s are rosewood.
Yes. Yep. And I think like we've already. Sorry. This thing has a little. This thing has a little limpness
you need me to-
problem. Look. Oh.
Can't have that.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold that.
Yeah. I think we've like spoken about how this wood combo tends to give you a pretty big mid hump, which is again excellent in an album or like in a like live setting, but also in a studio setting because it's gonna cut through everything, right? It is not a full spectrum sound. It does have this kind of like mid hump, but it's gonna help you cut, which is great.
On all those, I mean, the reason that there's so many types of guitars made of different materials is they all kind of sit in different ranges. Like your rosewood, I very much encourage people when they play an acoustic, sing with it because the wood actually resonates to your voice. And I think once you dial in what wood and what style of guitar works for you, that's when it's really going to start making more and more sense to why some of these guitars can be as expensive as they are. And the main reason is because they're sourcing this wood that's like not only hard to find, but like the construction and the time they put into it and like the acoustics that go into it. You could find something that could have a huge price tag to it, but it's what you need for singing.
And I would also say too, everyone's like singing voice is gonna sit in like its own place, and so an instrument that might work for me and like my voice, or me and like my band, might not sound good for like you. And so this idea that like there is one that's the best is just nonsense. It's just what's like the best for you.
That's right.
But all right, let's like hear this. I mean, how much are these microphones?
$99.
$99.
All
They
day.
are everywhere. They will outlast all of us, and they still sound
That they will.
effing great. Here, can we get it? Yeah, look at that.
Get it in there.
Let's get up to the 12th if we can. Hold on for technical difficulties. Also, let's have a shot of Adam on this SG.
What a hole.
Look at that. Oh, there he is. This.
Is it that?
What?
That's all the way. Oh no, that's loosening. That's loosening it.
What do you want? Tighten it? All right, just like hold it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, just hold it.
Okay.
Very Woodstock. Very Woodstock.
It
Just get
is.
it done.
It's very fitting. I'm sure it sounds good. I can't hear it, but I'm sure it sounds great.
Sounds great.
But that's how they mic'd everything at this event with, I mean, like what is equal to kind of what I would say people call like a starter microphone. But man, like the most...
Who's to say?
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of Woodstock, right?
Exactly.
The most iconic performances of all time. That's the fun about all this stuff. Is that like none of they didn't know that all this stuff was going to be iconic then. That's the best part about all this stuff, that we look back on all this and it's iconic. But in that moment, they were like, this thing's weird. I'm just going to do this.
This'll work.
I'm going to do this and it's going to happen.
This'll work.
Sound will happen, yeah. And that, all of this. It's all the happy mistakes and the oopsie daisies and the, man, that sounds a little weird. Let's just, you know what? It sounds broken. Let's just do it anyway, and it just happened.
It's a lesson we could all learn from. Just making stuff work
Just
with what you
do.
got.
Just like making it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
That was the 60s.
That was just making it work. Just making
and getting
it
out of a
work.
war.
Figure it out, make it work.
Yeah, figure it out, make it work.
Look at that. Look at that stage. Throw that
does
back up.
like anybody?
That's making it work right there.
That is making it work.
Mm.
Dude, yeah,
That
like
sound
six.
company, they had done big festivals
They
before,
had,
but
yep.
not like that. They were like,
Well,
a little overwhelmed.
I saw that their issue too was that most like large scale events at the time, oh my god, were oftentimes in a flat area, and like that one is like very much shaped like an like amphitheater, right? But at the time it was hard to get sound up over that hill, and so like they built those two side like towers and put speakers at the
very tough.
it was not safe.
And didn't they fly in like the Macintosh amp factory's not far, so they flew in the amps they needed more juice.
Yeah.
So they flew, and the amps were not, they are 160 pounds each.
Wow.
And they just flew them in on helicopters to get them in there to have more sound.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's cool.
They knew how important it was.
They did.
They're like,
You
we're
don't
gonna
get sound
fly
like,
them to.
you don't fly amps in for sound like that anymore.
That's it.
I guess we plan a little bit better than that, I suppose. But
Well,
man,
let's hope.
Yeah. we hope.
Very
there
cool.
anything
Where else
else?
haven't we gone? Did we cover?
I think we covered
We
all of our
covered.
girls. Yeah,
Bases.
we got all of our
We
sounds.
covered.
We covered. I think we
Hendrix.
covered. If
We
you think we
covered
didn't
The Who
cover,
and
if you're
Santana.
watching, I'd like to know what you think your
Yeah.
favorite sounds of the 60s were. If there were combinations of effects that we didn't cover, you know, too bad because tomorrow's the 70s, so like
Yeah,
we're not going
tomorrow's the
backwards. We'll do it
70s.
next year.
Tomorrow's the 70s. That's right.
Tomorrow's
Yeah,
the
till
70s.
till next
Tomorrow's
time.
the 70s. But look at that. Look at that.
Look, that was us.
1968, we had just moved out here into Wheaton. There it was. This was a furniture store.
Melrose
You can
Furniture.
see that at what is that? Melrose Furniture.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Opening soon. This was about 1 year before Woodstock. So like August of '68 is when we were opening up out here, and then 55 years later.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I think this would also be a good segue into the summer concert series. Adam.
Ooh, we are doing our own concert series, kinda, this summer. Oh yeah, look at it now. Look at us now. As part of the 65-year celebration of awesomeness, we are working with the city of Wheaton, which we have been calling home for the last 55 years.
Yeah.
We are doing a 65th anniversary concert celebration of sorts most Fridays, starting next
Every-
Friday.
yeah,
Every Friday?
every-
Almost every
yeah.
Friday.
For
Jul-
2 months, I think.
July and August. Fridays, we're going to be rocking out in Wheaton, making a lot of music, you know, bringing a PA
Good
system and
bands.
just great bands, great local music, all kinds of genres.
Food,
Food,
trucks.
drink,
alcohol.
fun,
Oh, snap.
music, awesomeness.
Yeah.
Us, we'll be hanging out.
We'll be
Yeah,
there.
sadly.
That's
You
Yeah.
know,
right.
it'll be great. It'll be great. Just celebrating good music, good vibes. You know,
Good time.
65 years, good times.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And in that note, it's your last day. It's your last
Ooh.
day. Here, you got to hold this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look
Yes.
at it. Whoa.
What?
It's your last day. Don't miss out to get these sweet 1960s version of the Chuck Levin's 65th anniversary limited edition T-shirts. July brings a new decade. We'll be celebrating the 70s and all the awesomeness that goes with it. We'll have a new sweet drop coming at you, so stay tuned for that. But guys, this was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how we top it next time.
Thanks
The 70s.
for
That's how we top
having
it.
us.
Bell-bottom
Yeah.
jeans. That's how we top
Bell-bottom
You better be wearing
Bell
yours starting tomorrow.
it. Yeah.
I
Every
expect-
single day
okay,
of July.
The hairdo's got to change and the pants got to get busted out.
That's right.
Zach? Okay.
That's right.
You all heard it here. Zach's got bell bottoms.
Oh,
Got
fashion
bell-bottoms.
star.
Until next time.
yeah, with
do
the
it.
with the platforms.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, everyone. See you next
Happy
week.
Friday.
Thanks a lot.